Get some people wandering in from out there. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotartha Shri Srimad, the Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotartha Shri Srimad, Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna, welcome. Can we get you some books so you can follow along? Is it okay? For a few minutes. Okay, all right. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 28th day of May, 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're in chapter 8, entitled Attaining the Supreme, text 7, on page 351. Everyone on the right page. Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha Mai Arpita Mano Buddhir Maya Arpita Mano Buddhir Mam Evaishyasi Asangshayaha Mam Evaishyasya Sangshayaha Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha Maya Arpita Mano Buddhir Mame Vaishyasya Sangshayaha Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mamanusmara Yudhyacha Maya Arpita Mano Buddhir Mame Vaishyasya Sangshayaha Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mamanusmara Yudhyacha Maya Arpita Mano Buddhir Mame Vaishyasya Sangshayaha Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mamanusmara Yudhyacha Maya Arpita Mano Buddhir Mame Vaishyasya Sangshayaha Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mamanusmara Yudhyacha Maya Arpita Mano Buddhir Mame Vaishyasya Sangshayaha. You want to try it over there, Prabhu? Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mamanusmara Yudhyacha Maya Arpita Mano Buddhir Mame Vaishyasya Sangshayaha Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mamanusmara Yudhyacha Maya Arpita Mano Buddhir Mame Vaishyasya Sangshayaha. No point asking if there's one online. No one online. Okay. Tasmat, therefore, Sarveshu at all, Kaleshu times, Mam, me, Anusmara, go on remembering, Yudhya, fight, Cha, also, Mahi, unto me, Arpita, surrendering, Manaha, mind, Buddhihi, intellect, Mam, unto me, Eva, surely, Ashyasi, you will attain a Sangshaya beyond a doubt. Translation. Krishna says to Arjuna, therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. Purport. This instruction to Arjuna is very important for all men engaged in material activities. The Lord does not say that one should give up his prescribed duties or engagements. One can continue them and at the same time think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. This will free one from material contamination and engage the mind and intelligence in Krishna. By chanting Krishna's names, one will be transferred to the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, without a doubt. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So as I pointed out yesterday, this verse and the previous two verses provide a very nice, concise lesson in Krishna consciousness. So let's review, starting in text 5. Krishna says, Antakale chamameva smadan mukva kalevadam yakpriyate samadbhavam yastinatjata sangshaya. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. And then he gives a general principle. 6. Yang vapi smarang bhavat chajajante kalevadam tam tamevaiti konteya sadatad bhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Welcome. We're on page 350. Tasmat, therefore, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudyacha mayarpita mano buddhir mamai vaishasya sangsheha. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without a doubt. So this is the central principle of Krishna consciousness. The first one, text 5, Krishna's antakale. Antakale means the time of death, time of when we leave the body. So if we were able to remember Krishna at that time, that's the success of our life. Then we don't have to come back into this world of birth and death, old age and disease. We go back to Godhead. Now, back to Godhead is a very important phrase. It means we were once there, right? You don't go back unless you were once where. So that, and it's not just back, it's back home. Home is a place where we feel all comfortable all the time and no one will evict us, right? Otherwise, it's not your home. It belongs to the landlord or something. So, Krishna is saying here, this is the essential test that we all face. The purpose of human life, as expressed in the Bhagavad Gita many times and in all our literatures, Srimad Bhagavatam, is to break out of the syndrome of birth, old age, disease, and death, which means a conditioned life. Condition means that we as spirit souls are inherently at home in a spiritual environment, in the spiritual world. We've lost that identity, and we've been in illusion since time immemorial, identifying with our external body. Now, it's not always a human body. There are all these other species of bodies we are fully aware of. The Shastra says there's 8,400,000, 400,000 varieties of human beings. So these are all there because people have different mentalities. And if we misuse the human form of life, we don't cultivate Krishna consciousness, we can very easily lose it and go down into the lower species. I like to give the example, every day almost I take a walk, unless it's raining. I go up Cass Avenue, about 3/4 of a mile, and I come back, chanting Hare Krishna. And invariably I see people walking their dogs. I've come to know some of these people. One fellow has a very comical dog. The dog walks in a funny way. He's real small, and the guy is very tall. And he doesn't have it on a leash because the dog really can't go anywhere. And I know, and he likes to take the dog. There's 2 churches here. One of them's been there for 75 years. 76 years. And I think they own the whole block there because when they came here, there was hardly any development, and they bought the whole block. They built houses on there, so they're wealthy. So, but there's not much going on. It's 6:30 in the morning, So he takes the dog into the little grounds there, and he noses around. I see that, So there's that dog, and there's other dogs, and probably he often mentions the dogs because people they become attached to the dog. He mentions how many people don't have children, but they'll get a cat or a dog or something so that they can love something. You have to have some, relation. But you imagine placing your love in the dog, and then what are you going to think of? You're going to think of that dog when you die, and you can become a dog. You will become a dog. So this is the science of transmigration. Krishna explains it in several places. He mentions it at the beginning of his instruction in chapter 2. Dehi nosmin yata dehe kaumaram hyobanam jada tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatta namuyati. That the conditioned soul in the body passes from different stages and different ages. We can remember back, I don't know how far back you can remember. I can remember, I think I was 4 or 5. The first thing I remember, I'm riding a tricycle somewhere with great energy, and that's all I can remember from that time. But you get a little older, there's so many things you can remember. So what does it mean? We've been changing bodies all our lives, but we're the same person. The same person. What hasn't changed? The soul, the Atma, the Jivatma, right? So it's explained in the Vedic literatures that we have this physical body made of earth, water, fire, air, ether, right? Subtle. These are progressively more subtle elements. Then we have the mind. Each of us has a mind and intelligence, discriminating factor. And finally, the most subtle is the ego. The ego is the interface between the soul and the body. And we identify with whatever body we're in, I like to give an example. I used to live in Miami, right on the beach. We had a temple there. It had been a hotel. And I was working on the Srimad Bhagavatam. You've seen the Bhagavatam sets we have? Maybe? Maybe not. Anyway, there's 18. And I worked on the last 6 volumes. Took us about 6-7 years to complete. Prabhupada wasn't able to finish it. It was this project that he was working on, his great opus. So I was right on the beach. I could see, and they had just, before I came, they had built $1 million or more boardwalk so people could walk up and down. Now, Miami Beach is famous for people retiring. They come down from New York and they retire there. They live in those buildings, So you'd see people walking on the new boardwalk, with their canes, and they're still ambulatory. And there would also be, in certain times of the year, people would come up from Brazil because it's cold down there in the winter and it's warmer, So, and these were, of course, wealthy people who could travel. So you'd find, I remember seeing, they had set up a whole volleyball net on the beach, and it was about 6 or 8 of them, and they were having a volleyball, wonderful. So they're young and, vibrant, and right 30 feet to the left, there's these old people walking, And so I remember what I felt like when I was that way, that I'm glad, boy, I'm really glad I'm a young person, I'm not old. I'm constitutionally young, 18, 20, I'll always be that way. And these are old people like that, you have that illusion. It doesn't dawn on you that you're headed there. Logically you understand that, but you never think, you don't live like that. It's not a consideration. You're more absorbed in the present thing, how you're going to succeed and enjoy and everything like that. So you could see that. They were nicely playing their volleyball, looking at all these oldsters. Oh, they're old, we're nice and young, But it's foolish. It's madness. Because the whole point of human life, this comes out in the Bhagavad Gita, all our books, is to get back to that state where we're purely spiritual and we don't go through all these changes. This phrase, I'm sure you all know it. Asato ma sadgamaya. Does that make, have you heard that? Asato ma sadgamaya. Tamasi ma jyotirgama. Amrityum ma amitam gama. Means it's actually a prayer to the Lord. Oh my dear Lord, lead me from darkness to light, from the temporary to the eternal, and from death to immortality. Or it can be understood the word ma, instead of meaning me, that can mean me. That can also mean don't. Don't stay in the darkness, come to the light. Don't stay in the world of death, come to immortality. Don't stay in the temporary, come to the eternal. So this is a call. This is the first Sanskrit I ever heard. It was in a Amala Bhaktas. He wasn't called Amala Bhakta Maharaj at that point, but he had a studio back in 1971 in New York City. And I said that, and it wasn't just asanas, he would also have some philosophy and stuff like that, and so I heard that. And it struck me, This is a call to practice yoga seriously, not just to get healthy, but to change your consciousness and be able to fix your consciousness on the Supreme. So how to do that? Now Krishna has spoken in the 6th chapter, the yoga system, classic yoga system, Patanjali, meditative yoga. But that was too difficult for Arjuna, what to speak of us. You know, we're not going to go off to some secluded place and sit for hours and days and months and years controlling the mind and trying to fix the mind on God. Nobody will be able to do it. Arjuna said he couldn't do it. So who are we compared to Arjuna? Prabhupada gives this argument. The whole point is to withdraw the mind from the objects of the senses and all the different things we absorb it in, and place it on the Supreme Absolute Truth, Supreme Brahman, who is ultimately a person, is ultimately Krishna. So Arjuna pled inability. Yeah, we can turn the heat off. And so Krishna began in the 7th chapter to say, okay, that's okay, Arjuna. You know, the last verse of the 6th chapter, he said, the greatest yogi is one who's always thinking of me within his heart and worshiping me with great and transcendental faith. Well, that's Arjuna. He's an eternal associate of Krishna. So he breathed a big sigh of relief. And then the 7th chapter, Krishna starts teaching us how we can be naturally attached to him. Maya-sakta manaparta. How can your mind be attached, you know? So the last word, Maya-sakta yogam yunjanmarashaya asangshayang samang yata yasitat shrinu. So Prabhupada picked up on that word shrinu. Hear from me now. And in the purport, he gives us some essential verses from the Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, about just hearing. Shrinmatam sukata Krishna. This is the 2nd chapter of the whole Bhagavatam. And Sutta Goswami is describing the ultimate Dharma. What is the supreme Dharma for human beings? And simply put, it is that Dharma which awakens our original love for Krishna and our Krishna consciousness. That's real Dharma. Not something that just happens to be your, you know, fits your psychophysical condition. You know, that's material Dharma. But supreme Dharma, what's the condition, can give complete happiness and peace for the self. That's the spiritual Dharma. So it ends, that lesson ends with these verses. So the first part is, how can we attain an attraction for hearing about Krishna? You see? And so the answer is by serving the spiritual master, the pure devotee. And what does the spiritual master ask to do? Chant Hare Krishna, in this age especially. Krishna, what does the word Krishna mean? It means all attractive. Krish is from Karshati, right? It's to pull the plow, pulling that plow. So Krishna, the Krish in Krishna, that syllable, there's a verse like this, means the all-attractive Lord. And the Na is the bliss. So just that word Krishna together means the Supreme Brahman, the Absolute Truth. This is a Vedic verse. I could dig up the Sanskrit in my brain, but it's not worth it. So this particular mantra is completely in tune with the Bhagavad Gita. Because the Bhagavad Gita this is how you can become attracted to me. At the end, what does Krishna say? The summary, the two verses summarizing the whole Bhagavad Gita, the essence. Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mamai vaishasi satyam te pradijane priyosi me. So Krishna is saying, I put it into a little poem for easy remembrance. Sorry, I'm getting a little heated. It's really too much energy expending here. It's like twice as many people as we usually have, I think, at least locally. I know we have some out there. Thank you very much. So, he says, just think of me, become devoted, worship me, and bow down low. You'll come to me, O friend, I promise you this boon I shall bestow. Then the next verse is like super famous. Sarva dharma parityaja, mamekam sharanam vraja, aham tvam sava papebhyo mokshayasyami ma shuchaha. Just give up all dharmas and surrender only unto me. Your sins I'll nullify, O Arjuna, from anxiety be free. You remember at the beginning, Arjuna was so afraid of committing sin, of helping to kill these men. My beloved guru, my teacher of martial arts, Dronacharya, and my beloved grandfather figure who raised me when my father died untimely, Bhishmadev. And so many other friends and relatives on the other side, he just couldn't. Who wants this kingdom? It'll be soaked with the blood of the people who I love. To heck with it. Let me go off to the forest to become a beggar. But he wasn't suited for that, so he knew Krishna didn't want that. So he's paralyzed. He sits down on a cart, drops the bow. Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight. Remember that scene? So then Krishna, he first he said, how is this impotence come upon you? Get up, like that. And Arjuna says, no, I can't, I don't see any point in it. So then he surrenders to Krishna as the guru. Karpanya dosho pahata swabhava prichami tvam dharma samura cheta yakshayaksyanistitam bruhitam me shishyasteham sharimam tvam papannam. He changes the relationship. He was speaking friend to friend, but Prabhupada said you can go on for millions of years speaking friend to friend and never come to a conclusion. But if he is the guru, then you have to hear. That's the point. And who can be a better guru than Krishna? So he says, Karpanya dosha, by my miserly weakness, I've lost my enthusiasm for my dharma, my swadharma, which is fighting. Karpanya dosha apahata swadharma, prichami tvam dharma samudacheta. I'm completely bewildered about what my real duty is here. So, Karpanya dosho pahata sabhama prichamidam swam dharma samudacheta yakshreyaksyan nishtitam bruhitam me. This word shreya is so important. It means my ultimate welfare. Please tell me for sure how I can achieve my ultimate word. Shishya steham. I am now your shishya. You see, now you're in your position of your friend. I'm your disciple. Shishya sharimam tvam papannam. I surrender unto you, please instruct me. This is a very important verse because it shows we all have to come to that point of really accepting the shishya. Now, Prabhupada points out in the lecture, Sanskrit is such a wonderful language. There are these root syllables that form the root of each word. And the root of this word shishya is shas, which means to control, be controlled actually. It's also the root of the word shastra. Shastra means evidence that you're willing to follow, you accept as evidence. The authoritative book like the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam and others. And also the word shastra. Notice the long and short A's make all the difference. Shastra is a weapon, right? Every sword, every gun is a shastra. You can control people with it, you see? And shishya means you agree to be controlled by the words of the pure devotee. You're not becoming a slave, but you're becoming a servant, and you're following the higher authority. And in this way, we can really make advancement. So who could be a better guru than Krishna? So he surrenders, and Krishna immediately chastises him. He says, Ashochanam ashochastram pragyabharam shabhasase gatasun nagatasum cha nanusochanti panditaha. You're speaking like a learned man, but actually you're a fool. You're lamenting for what is not lamentable, namely the external body. Because we have to remember, Krishna being on the battlefield, all the soldiers who died there, they advanced because they died in the presence of Krishna. Yes, he didn't kill anyone, but directly. He vowed, I'm not going to fight. But because he was there, they improved and they didn't go down, So, having said that, and he speaks the verse I mentioned before, Dehinosmen, he has a lesson on the soul, the difference between the body and the soul and the self. That's the key. Arjuna, yes, he was going to kill all these bodies, but that was actually for their benefit because Krishna was there. And most importantly, it was what Krishna wanted, because he wanted to reinstitute Dharma. I'm sure all you all know this verse. Yada yadahi dharmasya, glani bhavati bharata, abhyutanama dharmasya tada manasajamya. You know it too. Yeah. I think this is in childhood you learn it, kind of. Anyway, so Krishna said why he comes, right? Whenever and wherever there is a discrepancy in Dharma, at that time I advent myself, I manifest myself. Paratanaya sadhunam, vinachayasa diskritam, dharma sangstapanartaya, sambhavami yuge yuge. That in order to protect the devotees, paratanaya sadhunam, and to annihilate the miscreants for their own good, and to reestablish real Dharma, at that time I advent. So now there's a paradox here, because at the end Krishna says, Sarva Dharma, don't worry about Dharma. you know. But here there's very great concern about Dharma. Arjuna wants to know, what is my real Dharma? I don't know what I should do, my duty. And in this verse that I want to return to, it was the conclusion of the exposition answering the question from the sages, what is that Dharma by which the soul can be completely satisfied? So Dharma can be, you know, material or it can be spiritual. If Dharma is just your particular duty in varnashram, and it, you know, it happens to meet your psychophysical condition, that's one kind of Dharma. But the supreme Dharma is that which engenders devotion to Krishna, which is ahaitukīya pratayata, no material motivation. In other words, what's the motivation? Simply to please Krishna, and unbroken. It's not that you only do Dharma on Sundays, you know, that's what you do really. No. It has to come where it's at every moment you're situated in that Dharma, so that you're preparing for what the verse today. That at the end, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudyacha maya pratamodam mame vashishya sankshya. So he's saying, at every moment, sarva kaleshu, you should think of me and fight. To fight means because that's Arjuna's Dharma. We should do our duties and at the same time remember Krishna. Because if you're forgetting Krishna, then you're wasting a human form of life. So you need to organize your life in such a way that you can remember Krishna. Now, I know it's difficult if you're working outside because you're working in an office or you're doing so many things that help you forget Krishna. You know, so it's a way of so one needs to organize his life so that as much as possible, this is where you can make your house. What do you have on the walls? What are you listening to? You know, what are you eating? You should eat prasad. You can have a little altar and have prasadam. You know, and there's a way of even, you know, having a house and a job and everything, and at the same time remembering Krishna. So just to recap. These last verses in this second chapter of the first canto. Now I often think those who put together the Bhagavatam, you know, Sukadeva Goswami and Sutta Goswami and everything, they say, oh, this is these Kali Yugas. How are they ever going to get through all of these cantos? You know, so I'll put the complete lesson in right there in the second chapter. If they just can read for 1 hour, they'll be able to get there. So the essence of it is like this: once one comes to the point of being willing to hear about Krishna, which is what you are, you wouldn't be sitting here listening to Bhagavad Gita. Then what does Krishna do in his side? Because he's active there, he's in the heart. So it says, Shrinvatam Sukata Krishna Punya Shabana Kirtana Ridyantaksto Abhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. It's a cleansing process. He's there as the super soul. He's within us. So when he understands that you're hearing about him from the right source and pure vibration, Shunvata Swakata, his own kata, Krishna, which is Punya Shavana Kirtana. Simply by hearing and chanting it, you become pious, means you advance in purity and devotional service. Ridyantaksto, situated in the heart, Yabhadrani Vidunoti, he cleanses away the abhadras, those things which are inauspicious in our heart, which are all of these unfulfilled material desires, anxieties, aspirations, grudges we may hold. It's a million different things. The heart is unclean. Lochitancheto darpanamarjanam. You have to polish that heart. So Krishna's in there and he does that. He's cleansing. You know, he's helping you to forget those things and think of him. So, Vidunoti Surit Satam, because he is the Surit, he is the best well-wishing friend of the devotee. This is the devotees, the Satams, those living entities who are anxious to return to Godhead. So then what's the next step? Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavad-yuttama shloke bhaktim bhavati naishtiki. So this is a verse that I chant before every Bhagavatam class because it describes the importance of hearing the Bhagavatam from the Bhagavat, from the, you know. So nashta prayeshu, when all of these abhadras are always cleansed away by the process of hearing and chanting, nityam bhagavata sevaya, by always serving the Bhagavat, two kinds of Bhagavats, the mahā-bhagavat devotee and the Srimad Bhagavatam. How do you serve the Bhagavatam? By hearing it with ardent devotion, shushu-sho, with service mood, and taking it in and trying to act on it. That's hearing Bhagavatam. and serving the Bhagavatam, and serving the person Bhagavatam by engaging in devotional service. It's just two sources of knowledge, see. And doing it always, then Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki, then your devotion becomes fixed. Naishtiki, you see? You become the Nishtha platform, means your faith, because you're experiencing now, you see. So then at that time, Tadata Dastoma Bhava Kama Lobadayascha Cheta Eta Anabidam Stitam Sattve Prasidati. The lower, you become fixed in goodness, the lower modes of nature, you're able to transcend that. Rajas, Tamobha, the Rajas and Tamas, and their concomitants, lust, anger, and greed, they become less prominent in your life. You're able to, transcend those. Kamalo, Cheta, Eta, Anavidam, your consciousness is not affected by that. Stita Sattva, so you're fixed in goodness. You're fixed in the mode of goodness. So you're making progress. Then the next step, Evam, keep advancing in this way. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yoga bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangha sajayate. So then you become naturally joyful. It's hard to believe because we're used to our conditioned state, but our natural state is full of bliss, full of the happiness of Krishna consciousness, which is not dependent on your environment so much. It's coming from within. So isn't that a wonderful thing? You can always be happy and peaceful. So prasanna manaso, by Bhagavad Bhakti, by engaging in devotional service. Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam, and Krishna reveals more and more until you have a direct experience and vision of the Lord. That's Vijnan. Gyan means I know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vijnan means I see Him and He's telling me I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavad Bhakti Yoga, Bhagavad Tattva Mukta Sangha Sajayate, and you become liberated. Liberated from what? All of these attachments to the material world. You're becoming attached to Krishna. That's liberation. And then the final verse. Vidyate vidya grantis, chidyante sarva samshaya, chiyante chasti karmani, drishta evatmanishvare. So things are destroyed. They're cut. Vidya granti. Vidya granti are the knots in the heart. All these attachments, they become cut. All these things that you wanted to do, and the positive and negative. The attraction and the aversion materially, you're not so much bothered by remembering how that person cheated you. Okay, who cares? Before you have holding a grudge. The grudge is a garden. That's part of the knots. So the knots in the heart are getting cut because the heart's getting tied up with Krishna. You're tying the knot with Krishna. Isn't it tying the knot like this when you get married, tying the knot? So that's the first. Vidyata vidyaganti chidyante. All your doubts are destroyed. You're having direct experience. Your faith is confirmed. It's super strong now. And chiyante chasti karmani. All your karma, both your so-called good karma and your so-called bad karma, is eradicated. And then, wait, don't leave yet. 1 second. Drishta evatmanishvare. You see the Lord in the heart. Krishna reveals Himself to you in your heart, and you become realized. All from, hearing Bhagavatam, serving the Bhagavat, engaging in devotional service. We made a book out of this. Prabhupada lectured on these verses so much, we called it Dharma, the Way of Transcendence. And you can find it. The verses, there's about 20 of them. No, 15. And Prabhupada's translation, of course, and his purport, and then excerpts from his lectures on these verses. I included that. This was my idea to make this book. And it's selling well in India. They sell a lot of them there. But I think it's available here also. So thank you very much for coming. You got the abbreviated class. I'm going to continue with this few more minutes here. And then we'll have the concluding poem and the kirtan. All right. I just wanted to emphasize that nice little lesson, 5, 6, and 7. And now Krishna will speak about the practice. Abhyas means practice. Abhyasa yoga yuktena. Text 8. Abhyasa yoga yuktena. Chetasana nigamina. Padamam purusham divyam. Yati partanu chintayan. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. Purport. In this verse, Lord Krishna stresses the importance of remembering Him. One's memory of Krishna is revived by chanting the mahā-mantra, Hare Krishna. By this practice of chanting and hearing the sound vibration of the Supreme Lord, one's ear, tongue, and mind are engaged. This mystic meditation is very easy to practice, and it helps one attain the Supreme Lord. Purusham means enjoyer. Although living entities belong to the marginal energy of the Supreme Lord, they are in material contamination. They think themselves enjoyers, but they are not the Supreme Enjoyer. Here it is clearly stated that the Supreme Enjoyer is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his different manifestations and plenary expansions as Narayan, Vasudeva, etc. The devotee can constantly think of the object of worship, the Supreme Lord, in any of his features, Narayan, Krishna, Rama, etc., by chanting Hare Krishna. This practice will purify him, and at the end of his life, due to his constant chanting, he will be transferred to the kingdom of God. Yoga practice is meditation on the Supersoul within. Similarly, by chanting Hare Krishna, one fixes his mind always on the Supreme Lord. The mind is fickle, and therefore it is necessary to engage the mind by force to think of Krishna. One example often given is that of the caterpillar that thinks of becoming a butterfly and so is transformed into a butterfly in the same life. Similarly, if we constantly think of Krishna, it is certain that at the end of our lives we shall have the same bodily constitution as Krishna. There it is. Prabhupada keeps coming back in his purports to the ultimate truth. So a verse comes to mind, a verse always comes to mind. Smartavyak satatam Vishno vismatavmyo najatu chit. Sarva vidi nisheda shur etayore bakinkara. So what this means is, one should always remember Vishnu. And Prabhupada in his translation to this verse, he begins it with, Krishna is the origin of all Vishnu forms. It makes us understand that we can just, it means always remember Krishna. So, always remember Krishna and never forget him. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, vismartavya naja. Smartavya means to remember, and vismartavya means to forget. So, always remember Krishna and never forget him. All of the prescriptions and proscriptions, the do's and the don'ts of the scripture, are servants of these two principles. Everything we do, Babu, you have to offer your obeisance when you come into the temple. You say, okay. So when you think about, what do you offer obeisance to? You offer obeisance to the spiritual master who's a servant of Krishna. You see? In other words, everything comes back to Krishna. And there's a verse in the 11th canto, in the Yogendras. It says, how does it start? Kayena vacha manasindriyava buddhyapmanava anusata subhava karoti yadyat sakalam parasmai narayanayeti samarpayetam. This is a verse that some devotees know. So, Kayena is the body, vacha words. Kayena vacha and all the other senses and everything that you have. Whenever you do anything with all of these facilities, which is what you should be thinking, and it should be a fact. I'm doing this as an offering for Narayan. You're going from here to there. Okay, I'm doing this, I'm going to go set up the table so that we can have breakfast. I'm doing this as an offering for Narayan. So every breath is part of your service. You're simply breathing in order to please Krishna. And if at one point he doesn't want us to breathe, okay, I'll stop breathing, and then I'll go back to God. That happened to so many, poor devotees who left their body from the COVID. There was, a number of them. But the point is that that's really what we want to come to, the point where at every moment we're in service mood. I'm taking rest. Well, I have to take rest with the body. Okay, I'm taking rest for Krishna. Getting up at an early hour that no one else will do. I'm doing this for Krishna. That you can remember. Cold shower, definitely. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't for Krishna. So the austerities actually help you, because you can't do it for sense gratification. So it must be for Krishna. Oh, okay, I got it. I was able to take that cold shower for Krishna. I made some advance. So that's the idea. And Prabhupada would stress that verse, Smartatatam Vishnu. And Bhagavad Gita is basically telling us the same thing. Okay, so let's see. Any questions on this verse or anything we've said so far? Comments? Corrections? Oh, 1 second. We have the mic. We have thousands of people outside. Don't tell them the truth, okay?
So for doing like
12 people, okay.
Like going to work, is it okay to say even to Krishna, okay, I'm going to work now for you? Is that the same as thinking of it for Krishna, or?
Well, yeah, and if you're really doing it, you know, I mean, I'm doing this so that I can keep body and soul together, so I can serve
Right.
you, you know, and whenever I can, I'll put in the hundi, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you think it's not just, I got to pay the rent, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to pay the rent so that you can live, so that you can keep worshiping your deities. Yeah. So it's a way of spiritualizing every moment of your life. That's the idea.
Thank you.
Because it begins with chanting. All right, no questions. We'll continue here. Text 9, and then we'll have a poem or two. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyang Samanusmaredyaha Sarvasya Dataram Achinta Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasak Parastat. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, and who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature. Purport. Now this is interesting, and this happens a lot in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is going along, he who meditates on me, right? Chetasannani paramam purusham divyam. All right, 8 he doesn't actually mention himself in the Sanskrit there, but 7 he certainly does. Tasmata mahā-mantra yujita, right? But now he's in the third person. You should memorize on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Isn't that you, Krishna? I mean, he does that. Back to third person, first person. Ultimately, it's first person. Purport. The process of thinking of the Supreme is mentioned in this verse. The foremost point is that he is not impersonal or void. One cannot meditate on something impersonal or void. That is very difficult. That's why we have that Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Padesha. Tarine Prabhupada is delivering from this crazy conception of void or impersonal. The process of thinking of Krishna, however, is very easy and is factually stated herein. First of all, the Lord is Purusha, a person. We think of the person Rama and the person Krishna. And whether one thinks of Rama or of Krishna, what he is like is described in this verse of the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is Kavi. That is, he knows past, present, and future, and therefore knows everything. Now, remember the first verse of the Bhagavatam says, Adi Kaviye. It's indicating Brahma, that Krishna first inspired in the heart of that original wise man, wise person, Brahma. See? But this is Kavim Puranam. He's the oldest. Krishna is the original Kavi, the one who knows everything. But the Kavi means one who knows a lot. The Lord is Kavi, that is, he knows past, present, and future, and therefore knows everything. He is the oldest personality because he is the origin of everything. Everything is born out of him. He is also the supreme controller of the universe, and he is the maintainer and instructor of humanity. He is smaller than the smallest. The living entity is 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair, but the Lord is so inconceivably small that he enters into the heart of this particle. Therefore he is called smaller than the smallest. As the Supreme, he can enter into the atom and into the heart of the smallest and control him as the Supersoul. Although so small, he is still all-pervading and is maintaining everything. By him all these planetary systems are sustained. We often wonder how these big planets are floating in the air. It is stated here that the Supreme Lord, by his inconceivable energy, is sustaining all these big planets and systems of galaxies. The word achintya, inconceivable, is very significant in this connection. God's energy is beyond our conception, beyond our thinking jurisdiction, and is therefore called inconceivable, achintya. Who can argue this point? He pervades this material world and yet is beyond it. We cannot comprehend even this material world, which is insignificant compared to the spiritual world. So how can we comprehend what is beyond? Achintya means that which is beyond this material world, that which our argument, logic, and philosophical speculation cannot touch, and that which is inconceivable. Therefore, intelligent persons avoiding useless argument and speculation should accept what is stated in scriptures like the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam, and follow the principles they set down. This will lead one to understanding. And I'm just going to end with this, one of my favorite verses in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the last verse of the 16th chapter. Now, it's preceded by another really important verse Prabhupada would quote. He actually, the last few verses, it's called about the demons and the devotees, mostly about the demons, especially the latter part. And he says, you know, eventually I cast these incorrigible demons into hell, you know, hellish punishment. So he says, Tribadham narakasedam dwaram nashanamatmana kama krodha tata lobas tasmarita toyang chaje. There are three gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. The wise person gives these up. And then if you can, etava mukta konteya tamo dwarais, a dwar is a door or a gate. Tamo dwarais chibira, acharat yatmanak shreyas, tato yati padam gatim. Remember that word shreyas. Those who have escaped these three gates by the process of devotional service, they perform activities only for their own upliftment. No, they become pure devotees. Tato yati param gatim, and go to the supreme goal. But then he has two very bracing verses at the end, the last two verses of the chapter. He says, Yeshasni, okay, Yakshastra vidamutsvija vartate kama karataha nasa siddham avapnoti nasukam namaram param gatim. So now he's introduced the concept of the Shastra in the first place in the whole 16th chapter. And he's saying there, one who gives up the instructions of the Shastra, vidhi, the vidhi means instructions, the do's and don'ts, vidam utsvija, and continues to act on the basis of his own whims and material desires, vartate kama karataha, acting according to kama, nasa siddhim avapnoti nasukam na param gatim, doesn't attain perfection or happiness or go to the supreme abode. Therefore, and he has a therefore verse, those are always important because he's winding up an argument. Tasmat Shastram pamanam te karya karya vavastito gyatva shastra badanoktam karma kartam ihardasi. Therefore, one should accept Shastra, like Bhagavad Gita, as it is, Tasmat Shastram pramanam te, as this pramana, very important concept. A pramana is something we accept as evidence for what we should believe and how we should act in this world. Now people have a million pramanas, some conspiracy theory they get off the internet or whatever, you know. Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But here's the Shastra pramana, the Shastra, the authorized Shastra, as your guide to what to do and what not to do. And then having accepted it as such, one should actually follow the injunctions of Shastra as a matter of duty. In other words, it may go against your whims and your desires, but you have to put those aside and act according to your ultimate best interests, according to Shastra. So that's the importance of Prabhupada's books, which he worked so hard to present to us. You know, he traveled the world, he founded these temples, he gave so many instructions, but his real heart and soul was this book production and book distribution. And he wanted us to study them and accept them as our real guides, because he knew he would live on in his books. Well, I always point this out. When we read Bhagavad Gita, we are blessed with the association of Krishna and Arjuna and Srila Prabhupada. And if we accept their words as heart and soul and try to follow them, then we can make our lives a success. Okay, there's enough time for one little poem. Okay. So this is... this is from Mukunda Mala Stotra. Let's see if I can remember it. Karachadana saroje kantiman netamine shamamushipuja viji vyakule gada marge hari sadasi gaya pija tejo jalagam bhavamotopati kinna kleshamadhyatjami. The desert of this world is scorching me, tormenting me with endless misery. But now I see the perfect remedy. I'll dive into the lake of Sri Hari. Okay. Dive into the lake of Sri Hari. Oh, Oh yeah, the lotuses that grow within that pool are Krishna's hands and feet, so soft and cool. The fish there are his eyes, which ridicule the pair most exquisite, brilliant jewels. His arms with graceful motions ever make delightful waves in that unfathomed lake. Its waters is his splendor. Let me take deep draughts of it, my burning thirst to slake. If you want, if you desire relief from misery and wish to attain and wish to get perfection easily, then take to heart my easy remedy and dive into the lake of Sri Hare. Hare Krishna. Sorry, I forgot part of it, but Krishna bless me. All right, so now we'll adjourn and we'll have a nice kirtan led by my good friend Ram Vilas over here. Hare Krishna.